Good evening. James Turner Street in Birmingham is now one of the most infamous streets in Britain after the new Channel 4 series Benefit Street hit the screen with a bang this week, introducing a cast of benefit cheats, scammers, a shoplifter and a 50-pence man, a poor entrepreneur trying to help residents on the street get a little coffee or soap powder. The reaction has been immense, from accusations that the channel sold the residents a false prospectus about the programme to get them to take part, to commentators who say this series shows exactly why benefit reform is critical. Zoe Conway has been there to see for herself.
Unemployed, unemployed, unemployed.
Most of the residents
Pay for the poor.
are claiming benefits.
Probably 5% of people on this road that are working.
Is Benefit Street an honest, observational documentary about life in a deprived part of Birmingham, or a manipulative stitch-up? On James Turner Street today, there were very few residents who wanted to go on camera to talk about the programme. But there is anger here. This man, who didn't want to be identified, has lived on the street for 2 years and is not on benefits.
How do you feel about the way the programme's treated the street and the residents here?
Very let down. The production company have lied through their teeth to us. They've done exactly what they said that they weren't going to do. They haven't shown a true representation of the street, even though that they've been saying that it's a fair representation. It's not a fair representation because there's a lot of people that live on the street that work, and nothing has been put into the show about the people that actually do work on the street.
We've spoken to a number of residents about their interactions with the producers of the programme, and they've told us that they feel misled and that producers weren't clear about how the street was going to be portrayed. One woman who was asked to take part in the documentary told me that she thought it was meant to be about community spirit and that at no point was she told it was about benefits.
So what is life really like here? Ray Bennett has been helping people to cross James Turner Street for the last 8 years.
What do you think it's done in terms of the way the street is seen by everyone else?
Well, it's made the street look bad, and it's not that bad. You can't class everybody the same person, can you? You shouldn't tar everybody with the same brush. That's what I think.
The programme claims that almost all of the residents are on benefits. But that doesn't ring true, says George Drummond, who's lived here since 1961.
They are looking at 4 people who are on benefit and then target the whole street. That is wrong.
Why?
I'm not on benefit.
Some of those who appeared on the programme have been vilified on Twitter, branded benefit scroungers, but not smoggy.
Sugar, coffee, hot chocolate, tea bags, everything's 50p.
Smoggy's entrepreneurialism has made him something of a celebrity here in Birmingham.
Oh, it's overwhelming. Everything's just happening all at once, overnight.
What kind of reaction have you been getting?
Oh, a lot of people stopping me in the street, people saying that I'm an inspiration, people are saying that their children actually seeing what I'm doing and want to do something positive themselves.
And how does that make you feel?
Money couldn't buy that. Money couldn't buy that. That's special, that is.
Channel 4's Big Fat Gypsy Wedding was also criticised for voyeurism. So should these kinds of programmes be shown at all?
Insofar as it's true, insofar as it's accurate, and in that sense fairly portrayed, it's really kind of hard to say that we shouldn't be shown it.
Stop it!
What did become clear today is that the relentless media attention of the last few days has been too much for some residents of James Turner Street.
Well, I'm joined now by Ralph Lee, Head of Factual Programmes at Channel 4, by Owen Jones, a columnist at The Independent, and Fraser Nelson, the editor of The Spectator magazine. Ralph Lee, first of all, can we just nail the issue of the title? Were the participants told that the title of the show was going to be The Benefit Street?
They weren't told that, but they weren't told something else either. So what I would say is the producers have been working with the the residents of James Turner Street for nearly 2 years now. It's been a consultation with them long before we started filming. We were there filming for a year, and they were very clear and transparent with everyone on the street about what the nature of the programme was, why they were there, and what the nature of the end product was. And so they were clear that we were there.
They were told it was going to be about benefits primarily.
They were clear that they were there because this is a part of Britain that is heavily reliant on benefits, and that James Turner Street sits within Winton Green, which has, you know, a long-term problem with unemployment, and therefore the thrust of the programme is what's life like in Britain in a year where benefits are being cut by the government over a long period of time for a community. And let me just come to the final point. For a community that has, in spite of the hardship that it goes through, a very strong sense of community, a very strong sense of neighbourliness, and that was part of why that street was chosen.
What about the criticism that you don't show anyone who actually works on the street, and yet there are people who do work in the street?
Well, it's true to say that the majority of the people on James Turner Street do claim benefits, and that's what the programme says, and that's what we're clear and transparent with the members of the street.
But why didn't you tell them? Did you know it was going to be called Benefit Street? I mean, why didn't you call?
No, not necessarily. A lot of documentaries. It was decided quite late in the day that would be the final title, and that's quite common for documentaries.
When was it? Really, just before transmission?
At the point where we go to press with the Radio Times and that kind of thing.
That was when it was decided.
Which is a couple of weeks before.
What do you think about the attitude?
We're also transparent with the contributors.
So the contributors knew it was going to be called Benefit Street before it transmitted?
Yes, yeah.
Tell me, are you comfortable with the idea of poverty porn as an idea?
I'm deeply uncomfortable with that phrase. I think it's inaccurate, and it's patronising towards the people who take part in these programmes and to open up their lives to it. And it's quite offensive to the people who make them, I think, with diligence and professional and with integrity. So it's a phrase that I actually resent quite heavily.
Owen, why have you got such a problem with it?
I don't think this is a kind of honest portrayal of life in Britain. I think it's more the medieval stocks updated for a modern format. What we've seen, and it's not just, I'm writing it out from Channel 4 actually, what we have in this so-called debate about the welfare state is a relentless, almost obsessive hunting down of the most extreme, dysfunctional, unrepresentative people.
But wait, they're adults.
Benefits.
They're adults. Isn't that carried with patronising?
No, it isn't patronising. I'll tell you why it's not patronising, Kirsty. Because we have a situation now where, according to the polls, on average, Britons think 27% of social security is lost through fraud. It's 0.7%. People think that the majority of the welfare state goes on unemployed people. It doesn't. It goes on pensioners who've paid in all their lives. And it's to do with these sorts of sensationalist programmes. It's not just them. The BBC themselves are also responsible for this.
Yeah, I mean, the BBC like got a programme called The Scheme.
People like
lots of different programmes.
People like us, for example, which was a BBC Three programme which did the same to Hap Herpy in Manchester. This programme, by the way, misportrayed someone on a housing benefit and had to apologise for that.
But hang on, the programme didn't put words in people's mouths.
No, what it does, this is what these programmes do, all of them, like People Like Us, like Skints, which you also did, is they hunt down these unrepresentative examples, they portray them in the most negative way, and then, I mean, we've got on social media, obviously, a response to that, people calling for them and people on benefits to be gassed, hanged, shot. You must be very proud of that.
Selective memory of the documentary canon here, so he's selecting Skint and Benefit Street and making them representative of a whole that they don't represent. So he's forgetting a series like How to Get a Council House, which is a series that we made last year that no one accused of being so-called poverty porn. It was a very insightful look at the process that on both sides of people who are reliant on social housing, and that's a series that we're going back to. We're looking again at that subject this year. So we look at benefits in more ways.
What is the value? What is the value of this series?
It opens a window on a part of our welfare state and part of our country, and if what we see is shocking, then the question is, shouldn't we be changing this system? We're very good in Britain at ignoring extreme poverty, at pretending this stuff doesn't happen, and every time somebody shows it, saying, "Oh, isn't this terrible?" You're gawping at these people. Now, I don't think this is a freak show. This actually portrays them, I think, in quite a positive light. A lot of them, the characters there are ones that I personally warmed to, and I think the villain of the piece isn't the people. The villain is the system that makes them lead lives in the way they do.
What about the criticism that it's often young, middle-class producers that go in and kind of do a kind of does he take sugar on areas like this and then retreat again and don't actually understand the lives of those people?
Well, the cameras just rolled and the people spoke in their own way. And I've the advantage of seeing the second episode, which, for example, portrays Romanian immigrants, an incredibly positive, sensitive light, probably the most positive portrayal you will see this year. So I think when people see the whole series, they will realise this is not an attempt to put people in the stocks, as Owen says. It's saying, look, this is part of our country, these are our people, and this is what we're doing.
Look, this is what the media has to be held accountable for, as I've said. Not only the fact that people's perceptions of the welfare state is so distorted, and everyone needs to look at those figures as factual producers and look at them and think, how on earth have we ended up where the public is so misinformed? And that means redressing the balance. That means far more programmes looking at the millions of low-paid workers who are dependent on in-work benefits being cut by the government, whose real wages are falling and struggling, who are all too ready.
But that wasn't a programme. This isn't a programme about that. And what are you really
absolutely.
saying?
And those are the people who depend on the welfare state.
No, but are you really saying that the people on James Turner Street shouldn't have their voice?
No, I'm saying that it should be balanced. This is the point about these television programmes. You balance them out. Most working-age people dependent on benefits are people who are in work, and that's because we're subsidising bosses who are paying poverty wages. It's the same. Another part of the welfare debate, which is not shown in TV, is the fact housing benefit is lining the pockets of these private landlords. Most new claimants of housing benefit are in work because they can't afford, but that reality is not shown by Channel 4 or the BBC.
Does it give you pause to think that actually some of the reactions from people who've taken part in the programme have been very negative?
Yeah, I think we take our responsibility to contributors and to the people who take part in all of our programmes very, very seriously. And as a result, the producers who've worked with them over such a long period of time are still there on James Turner Street and trying to help them and deal with the issues and the consequences of having that degree of attention for them.
Why do you think people are so unhappy?
I think benefits is obviously touched a nerve as an issue. It's obviously an issue of major concern.
Can I ask
in
you a
Britain.
direct question? When you see on social media, as a response to your programme, you kept flashing up the hashtag Benefit Street, the most sensationalist moments of that documentary, and you saw people calling for those people to be gassed, hanged and shot, and people on benefits to go through that as well. Did you look at that and think, hang on a minute, maybe we could have been a bit more balanced here and not been quite so sensationalist?
When I see that, I find that deeply distasteful.
Do you take any responsibility for that whatsoever?
I do,
People
but I think
said the same about Channel 4 presenters, though, didn't they? And
But hang on, Rafa, you do take responsibility.
I don't think you should judge the programme by the reaction to the programme, and I don't think you should judge the reaction to the programme by the extreme reaction to the programme represented by a handful of very intemperate tweets.
I'm going to ask you this as well, as someone who's there wanting to show the reality of modern Britain. Do you look at the fact that people on average think 27% of welfare state is lost to afford, which is 0.7%, and think, hang on a minute, as a documentary maker, or someone making these documentaries, I need to do something to educate people. That is my responsibility.
I think you're distorting the argument there, Owen, because this is not a programme about benefits fraud.
No, I'm talking about generally. I'm talking about your
doesn't.
output. What responsibility do you have as someone informing the public? Do you want to take on those myths? Isn't that what the media is about? Challenging myths, showing people the truth.
And also exposing real problems, which this is doing. I mean,
in context and in proportion to what
if you ask me, there's
are.
nowhere near enough outrage in this country and what we're doing to the poorest people in our society. This
so
is
do you
shocking.
think it will make a difference to the political debate?
Absolutely. I do think that the more people realise how broke the system is and what life is like for people inside that system, the more, I think, support there will be for attempts to try to reform it and try to save the people who are caught in this trap.
And who does a lot of the hook? The people at the top,
Thank you very much indeed. Now, when Ed Baldwin